Do you know what makes you special? Follow and subscribe to the special Fallout series show now so you can find out. And enjoy the following episode of the special Fallout series show. Welcome back to another episode of the special Fallout series show. I'm your host, Mikey, and today we are here to give our spoiler review of Season 1, Episode 2, The Target. You already heard my instant reaction to this, so you know that I am continuing to love the look, the feel, the tone, the camera angles, the coloring, the costumes. I'm loving all of that. Okay, so let's get into the details of this episode, get into our spoiler review and just kind of how we feel about it in context of the story overall. So, again, I love this episode because we instantly open up this episode by answering a question from the previous episode, and that question that was kind of brought up throughout the first episode was the target, and we want to know who is the target. Well, we open up on the target that everybody is after, and we see that he is a scientist, and he's in a lab doing experiments, testing on dogs, and we see that this lab that they're at, whenever they're done with these experiments on the dogs, they just throw them in an incinerator, right? And incinerate them. The target here, he's not a fan of that, it doesn't look like. And he decides to take one dog that he marks as CX404 for his own. He sneaks him out of there, and he keeps CX404 as his pet. And he has the dog living in a hole in the wall behind this whiteboard in his office. We get a montage of the dog growing up, and during this time period we see the target. He's working on some sort of experiment, and eventually we see it's this small little glowing node, and then he takes it and injects it into the base of his head behind his right ear. As he does this, another scientist walks in just after he does this and realizes what he's just done. They get into a little scuffle. The other scientist is going to raise the alarm, but CX404 does not like seeing the target in danger by this other scientist, and CX404 attacks a scientist, but this sets off an alarm anyway, so that kind of tells us that these scientists have some sort of alarm on them in the case that they are injured or die. So that's what happens here. The alarm goes off anyways, and they take off running. The target and CX404, they are narrowly able to escape the facility. There's a robot that tries gunning them down, but they are able to escape. And like I said, I mean, in general, I thought this was a good opening. Again, we answer a question right away. We get to see who the target is. We get to see a little bit of his background, and we get to see the circumstance that brought him to the point where everybody is after him, right? That was one of the questions. Okay, this guy just escaped this place called the Enclave. How did he escape? Why did he escape? And we got those questions answered as well. Partly. There's still some mystery to what was going on with this experiment that he's running and he injected in his head. But, we saw how it happened. Then we see Lucy. She's wandering the wasteland. We get to see some good scene set up here for Lucy, and seeing her first time out into the surface and the wasteland, right? So she goes by this house. She just goes in and decides to explore it. She finds a family of skeletons at a dining table. Looks like they had a very gruesome ending. Um, and then she, exits there, and at night she makes a fire. She falls asleep, and she's woken up in the middle of the night with CX-404 just staring her in the face. And then CX-404 attacks a rad roach. You know, I guess, I guess me as a video game player, I would know it's called a rad roach, but a viewer, they would just look at it as like this mutated cockroach, right? I guess you wouldn't know that. I don't believe they called it rad roach in the show at this point. But that's what CX-404 attacks. This big cockroach, mutated cockroach. The target is just sitting there by the fire, staring at Lucy, and explains to her like, "Oh yeah, these cockroaches. Not only did they survive a nuclear war, they thrived, and now they're big, huge things, right?" And he tells Lucy not to light a fire after dark, and she should know that. She tells him that she is looking for her father, and Lucy says, or Wills, or we know he's called Wilzig, but at this point we just know he's called the target. And he tells Lucy that she should go back to the vault because there are no rules and laws here. It's not like the vault where everything's got rules and values and all this. None of that exists up here on the surface. He doesn't think she's going to be able to do what it takes to survive on the surface. And she says she's not going back without her dad. And then he delivered a very good line here. He says she will have to adapt to survive and wonders if she will want the same things when she becomes a different animal. All right. And then he just ups and leaves with the dog. So, yes, that is going to be very interesting to see going forward throughout the rest of this series. How does she change, and how does that change the things that she wants? I mean, anybody who's played the video games would know that, like, when in the video games, when you first leave the vault, you have there's a main storyline, there's a main quest that you can go on, and that's kind of your goal. Your overall goal throughout the story. But yeah, there's other things that you start to want to do as your character adapts and survives in the wasteland and becomes stronger and learns more things about the wasteland, and that can change your motivations. So it'll be very interesting to see how that line rings true for Lucy. Then we cut to Maximus. He's with Knight Titus. They're flying to a town called Philly, which they are supposed to search. Titus decides he's bored, though, and he just wants to stop and land so he can shoot something. And he takes Maximus with him. And then we cut back to the target and the dog. They're taking a rest outside of a cave. CX-404 enters this cave, and then he comes out with a severed human hand, in his mouth, like he's like retrieving it, like a dog would if you're playing fetch with a stick. And then we hear a roar from the cave, and we cut away. The doctor obviously looks very scared at this point. And again, just some great comical moments here. The dog coming out with the severed hand in his mouth, like it's like he's playing fetch with it or something. Again, they're nailing the tone perfectly. Yes, it's dark, it's gruesome, but at the same time, the way it's presented, it's just hilarious. Titus and Maximus go into the forest next, and they discover the cave that the target was just at. He's no longer there. And Maximus discovers that the lab coat is there on the ground, and he tells Titus, okay, the target was here. They hear a roar from the cave, and they decide to go in and search. Titus, even though he's got the power armor on, he seems to be scared. So he sends Maximus further into the cave to search if the target is there or not. Maximus doesn't see anything, and Titus is, you know, just berating him this whole time. He's not being a nice guy to Maximus. Uh, so when Maximus turns around, what he does see is a mutated bear behind Titus. And, you know, for whatever reason, Maximus either doesn't want to say anything or he just can't say anything. He can't get it out. And then Titus turns around, he sees the bear, and then they get into like hand to hand combat. This mutated bear and this guy, this knight in this like power armor suit. And the bear knocks away the gun from Titus, and then Titus just gets scared and decides to run away and then fall. He runs out of the cave, trips, and falls, lands on this big boulder and gets knocked out. And Maximus is still just watching, not doing anything to actually help yet. The bear starts to maul Titus, and then Maximus, still hesitating, but does eventually, shoot the bear in the head and killing it. Maximus helps Titus take off his helmet, so we get to see what Titus actually looks like. And yeah, he's just a regular dude. And you get the helmet off, and then he just sounds like a regular dude. And once they get the helmet off, though, Titus is still just like scolding and berating Maximus and complaining about him, and complaining about the missions he gets sent on, and complaining about the leaders and the enclave, or not the enclave, the brotherhood, and all this, right? And he tells Maximus to go get him a stim pack, and he's still continuing to berate Maximus here. And so Maximus, he goes over to get the stim pack, but basically he's had enough. He doesn't want to hear it from this guy anymore. And he has a flashback to when he was a kid again. And here you could see when he was a kid, somehow, one of these knights saved him. And he gets like a big grin on his face. So he's, from what we can tell, he's always looked up to these knights, and the had an idyllic version of them in his head, right? So he's still thinking, okay, this is what they're supposed to be, and this guy is not that. So he tells Titus he doesn't deserve the armor, and it is clear at this point that he's just going to let Titus die, because he's holding this stim pack, this medical thing that we that could save Titus in his hand, but he's just not giving it to him. So it's clear he's just going to let him die. Titus again just continues to berate Maximus and just says, they're going to kill you for this, and he describes like the details of how they're gonna like hang him by his lungs, and things are not just, they're just not going to be good for Maximus if he doesn't save him. But Maximus, again, going from from the time when they were on the plane to when they're going through the forest and in the cave, Maximus kind of has like a meek demeanor and way of speaking, right? Until now, when he, again says that this guy doesn't deserve the armor, and now he says, they're not going to kill him if he's the one to bring the target back. Again, all of a sudden, a change of demeanor here. He's a little bit more confident. And then the other, another part I forgot to mention here earlier when they were riding on that plane. It just this guy Titus really was just harassing and giving Maximus a hard time, making him wash his crotch piece from the armor while they were on the plane. Again, just funny little things in here that make us laugh in this show. We cut back to Lucy. She's running into a random wasteland dweller. She asks him for directions. She gives him some water. He drinks it all and says, when someone gives you clean water to drink, you drink it. And, in fact, you drink as much of it as you can, even if you aren't thirsty. She's wondering if he's seen a group pass by with a prisoner. He hasn't, but he says there's a nearby town called Philly. In fact, it's just past the hill. He's never been past this or been over the hill because, all his family was killed there. So he saw it as a reason to not go there. And, the hill is just, it's not far away at all, but he's just never been over there. And so Lucy's like very surprised, like, oh, you've never just walked that little distance to that hill? And he's like, nope, everybody in my family dies over there, so never been. And then she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go there then. And this guy is like trying to offer her to stay and live with him, and she's like, no. And he's like, well, I think I'm dying, so you wouldn't have to put up with me long, and all this could be yours. As he points to like this like decrepit, broke down, rotting house with again, this wasteland. It's all dirt. There's no plant life. It's just he's just got sand and a house with torn down walls and a roof, and it's nothing, but it could all be hers, right? It's just a funny exchange here, because then he's like, you're thanks for not shooting me, and you're a great person for that. And she's just like, yeah, not a problem. And then we see her start to walk towards Philly, and then we get Maximus again. Now we see him. He's putting on the power armor and he's trying it out. And boy, is he excited about the power this new armor gives him. So he's testing it out. He's punching, he's kicking, he's dancing around, he's throwing things, kicking things, punching things, and then he accidentally knocks down this old ruined building that he kicks a rock into, and then he just kind of realizes, like, oh wow, like I am powerful. Then he hears a scuffle going on. There's a man being attacked by another man, and this man is it's like this like taller, skinnier dude and a little bit older hefty dude. And so the older hefty dude is like choking the younger, skinnier guy, and Titus goes over to the older guy, grabs him by the head, and tells him to unhand the other man. And the man that was being choked, the younger guy, he just is like thankful for Maximus, and he says, it's not the first time he's been persecuted for his scientific curiosity, and again thanks Maximus before he leaves. And he leaves, he takes off, and then the older guy, Titus, lets go of him, and he's just like, please don't murder me, don't hurt me. And Maximus isn't really saying anything. The guy is just like, he says that the younger guy is like, oh, it was just that that guy was fucking my chickens. And Maximus is kind of like, like gross. And he's just like, okay, be on your way, go about your day, citizen. He just doesn't know what to say, and who would know what to say to that? When he does this, though, he discovers that he's got like these little thrusters in the wrists of his armor. And then right after he discovers that, we cut back to Lucy, and she is entering the town of Philly, which we know Maximus is going to search for the target. And she gets to Philly here. She's walking through the market. There's somebody selling dog meat. Again, video game players will enjoy that. Just the reference of the word or the name dog meat. That's what you call the dog in the game. That's one of your companions. You get dog meat. She finds her way to the center of town, and we see the ghoul sitting there, just sitting there in the middle of this like business square. We don't, we don't. I mean, Lucy doesn't see him, but we see him there. But what she does see is a shop that's got some old Vault Tech equipment. So she decides to enter, and she talks to this shop owner here, this old lady. And Lucy assumes she must do business with criminals because this Vault Tech equipment is there, and that's that should be exclusively property of the Vault and Vault Tech. And the shop owner is just laughing and making jokes at Lucy. She's like, "Oh, you must, be an actual vault dweller." And she's calling for, her partner to come over and take a look at her until Lucy mentions Moldaver. Now this store shop owner starts getting serious, and she tells Lucy, she tells Lucy the same thing that the target told her. Go back to the vault. Things are going to get worse out here for you. Right? And then Lucy's like, well, you should help me because, vault dwellers are going to save and restore America. And this shop dweller, we know her now as Ma June. She says the vaults were just a place for rich people to hide while the rest of the world burned. And what surface dwellers say about the vaults? They say, fuck the vaults. And, Lucy's like, okay, I guess I'm not going to get help here. So she leaves. And as she's leaving, just as she's exiting, who is entering? The target. The target is entering. I guess we're in spoilers, right? So I could just say it's his name's Dr. Wilzig. So the target, Dr. Wilzig, he is entering the shop, and again, he tells her, "Go home. This is no place for you." And Lucy starts explaining that nobody understands her situation, but then Wilzig interrupts and says, "Hey, you're from Vault 33." And then he gives all these different details about what's in Vault 33, what they grow in there, what their ideals are. He gives all the details of what Vault 33 is. And she's like, "Well, how does this guy know about what is specifically in my vault?" So she wants to know how he knows so much. But Ma June comes out to interrupt, to greet the target, to greet Wilzig. And now the ghoul sees Wilzig as well, and he approaches, and then the entire town becomes on edge here. And the ghoul says there is a bounty on Wilzig, and he is going to take him because, there's like 6 people after him with this bounty. And so basically he sees there's going to be a bidding war. So he wants him. But Ma June says she's already been paid to transport him safely out of Philly. And the ghoul doesn't care. He takes out his shotgun and he shoots Dr. Wilzig's foot, basically from his shin down, blows it clean off. Dr. Wilzig is injured badly here. Just got his leg blown off, the bottom half of his leg. And let's see. Ma June, She ducks down for cover. She yells out that she's going to pay anybody 1,000 caps to anyone who can kill the ghoul. Oh, I forgot to mention here. CX-404 attacks the ghoul. Right, so the ghoul just shot off Wilzig's leg. The ghoul's starting to walk towards Wilzig, and CX-404 attacks the ghoul, and then the ghoul stabs the dog right in the side. We hear the dog whimper and go down. Wilzig is very upset, of course. Now that's his dog, that's his pet. So then that's when Ma offers the town 1,000 caps to anybody who can kill the ghoul. But if she does it, then she's not going to give anybody anything. So this big battle breaks out, of course. And then Lucy hears this all going on outside. And then she comes out. She's got the tranquilizer gun. She tries to stop the ghoul and says, hey, I'm trying to de-escalate things here. If you got a problem with me, then you're the aggressor, and I'm going to have to use force. The ghoul starts walking towards her. She shoots, and it has no effect. He's like, that's a small drop. In a very large bucket of drugs. It's, we know who he is. We know that the radiation has done something to him. He's been alive for 219 years. So we know that. She doesn't know that. But now we see, that you can't just hit him with a little tiny bit of drugs. He's already far gone from that. So then, the town, they continue to battle with the ghoul here until Maximus shows up with his armor just in time to save Lucy from being shot by the ghoul, as he's like using his armor and body to shield Lucy. He lifts up the mask for her and tells her that he's been sent for Dr. Wilzig, so she needs to get him inside and keep him safe until he can take care of the ghoul. And she agrees, and then Maximus goes out and has this awesome battle with the ghoul. Lucy, in the meantime, gets Wilzig inside, and Ma June's looking for this, for spare foot. She's asking her partner to help her find a spare foot. Turns out they have one. It's a robotic piece of steel foot, but they get one on there. And again, that's just like gruesome, right? The way it like screws onto the leg, and the buckets of blood are like coming out of him as they're putting this fake leg on. After they get this leg on, Wilzig, he realizes, he still needs to get to Moldaver. He needs to get to his destination. He says he still can make the trip, and he tells Majun that Lucy can take him. And Lucy's like, no, I'm here for my dad. I just need to find my dad. And this is when Majun reveals that her client is Lee Moldaver, and delivering Wilzig is her best bargaining chip to get near her. Because you're not going to get near her unless you have something she wants. So, it would best serve Lucy to bring Wilzig to Moldaver. Majun gives coordinates to Lucy and her Pip-Boy to this place called the Shithole, and she helps them escape out the back. Then we go back. We see Maximus continuing his battle with the ghoul. Again, he still doesn't know exactly what he's doing with this armor yet. He ends up getting his foot stuck. Stepping on like some old wood or something, and his foot gets stuck down in it. And then the ghoul cuts like some sort of valve on the armor, and this affected his thrusters in some way, and now Maximus has no control over what he's doing, and he ends up flying through the sky. It looks kind of epic. We even see Lucy looks up in the sky and sees him flying, and she thinks it's like this heroic thing, but we know as the audience that he's actually just got his ass kicked, and now he's like wildly flying and going to crash as he soars through the air there. But yeah, Maximus crashes, and then we cut back to the ghoul. He enters the shop. He's looking for Dr. Wilzig, but he sees that he has escaped, and he grabs a stim pack, and he goes back out to find CX404, the dog. And he uses that stim pack on CX404, who, just moments later is back to normal and is healthy. Right, and good to go. So we were afraid at first that the dog had just got killed, but thankfully that is not the case. And in fact, the ghoul went back and saved him. So now CX404, the dog, is starting to follow the ghoul around. Lucy and Wilzig, we cut back to, and they are in the wasteland. Wilzig is just limping along. He's slowing down. He can't make it. Lucy says there's just 20 miles left to go, but Wilzig decides to stop and sits down to take a rest. Then he tells Lucy, "I'm not going to make it." And Lucy gives us nice motivational speech on why and how he can do it, and they're going to do it together. And then he's like, no, I've just taken a cyanide pill. And then again, just very funny. All right, this guy's taking a cyanide pill. He's got buckets of blood still coming out of the bottom of his leg, now he's just taking a cyanide pill. But then he goes into this whole explanation of how, it's actually the most humane thing that the Vault Tech had ever made. And when it, Wilzig thinks it's one of the, this cyanide pill is one of the best inventions they ever had. And that is banana flavor, right? And it's a cyanide pill. And his line after explaining how, it's really ethical, it has mercy, it shows mercy to whoever takes it, and it's banana flavor, so he doesn't understand why it wasn't more popular, this pill that you take that's gonna kill you, and he wonders why it wasn't more popular. So he reveals he's taken this cyanide pill, and tells Lucy that she can change the future if she gets him to Moldaver. And she's like, well, how am I going to do that? And he's like, don't worry. Not my whole body, just my head. Then he gives her this power saw to cut off his head and says he took the pill so it would be easier for her to go through with it. And that if she's going to survive, she needs to act like a surface dweller. And again, Lucy is just very taken aback by all this. She doesn't know what to do, but then calls her by her name. He calls her Miss McLean. And now we got questions again. How does he know, and why does she know who she is? She wants to know that. So she's trying to figure out how he knows her name, but of course he took that cyanide pill and he dies before he can answer the questions. She's in total shock. She's just takes in her surroundings, looking around, and realizes, yeah, she's got nothing else to do. She's still got to go get her dad. She grabs that power saw and then she goes to town. She just says, "Okie dokie." And she gets to work on removing that head. And that is how we ended this episode. Again, a very good episode in my eyes. They did a great job with the action in this. The action between the ghoul and the members of the town that he's fighting. Then his fight with Maximus, the bear scene was hilarious. Again, it's just so hard to, most of the time when you find a show that you like, there's a certain tone, right? And it kind of sticks to that throughout. But with Fallout, you have to be able to nail all these different moods and tones throughout a single episode, even. And they did that here. When it was supposed to be funny, it was very funny. When they were, in a dramatic moment, it was dramatic. And then, when we got action, it was good action. So, yeah, I really liked it. Again, the world just felt great. It felt really lived in. All the details they put into it with the broken down houses, the buildings, the cars, the way this little town is set up. Yeah, it all looks great. Yeah, you could see, the money they spent on the screen just with how good these sets look, how good the costumes are. It's amazing. Again, we still got amazing acting throughout this episode with Ella Purnell, Walter Goggins, Aaron Moten. They all continued to do a great job. I mean, Dale Dickey as Ma June, she was hilarious. Michael Emerson as Dr. Siggy Wilzig was great in this. We got when we got the scene that had Titus. What is that comedian's name? Let's see if I can find it. No, I can't find it. But that guy, anyways, that guy is hilarious. The other, random surface dwellers that she ran into, they all played their part very well, being funny and whatnot. So yeah, very good. Again, I continue to be impressed with this show, with how well it is blending all these moods and tones. Right, that's the hard part. You can get lots of shows that are trying to, or will try to, portray all those things, but they just don't do it as well, and they can't do it as well. So I think they're nailing it so far. I'm only 2 episodes in. I can't wait to watch more. By now, you already heard my episode where I announced, or we talked about the news that Amazon announced that a season 2 is coming. So I'm excited to get so much more of this. I'm only 2 episodes in, so I luckily get to go through 6 more episodes, and then yeah, I'll be waiting with the rest of you for season 2 to come out whenever that's going to happen. But if I'm assuming it's only going to keep getting better, and then we'll see what they can do with season 2. Like I said, I've heard a lot of great things about it from other people who have finished, so I'm excited to go on the rest of the journey of finishing out this show. And again, yeah, we should be able to get on a pace here where, I do these every few days. So let me know what you thought about season 1, episode 2, The Target. Um, when you watched it, did you binge these episodes like right in a row, or were you like me? Are you pacing it out? Did you, yeah, did you pace it out? Let me know how you took it in, and, um, you know, how that affected the way you were feeling about the characters. All right. But yeah, that is going to be the episode of this show. I, I'm just so excited to uh, be doing this because I'm having fun. I'm seeing the response on YouTube, on the podcast. There's a ton of you out there. So definitely make sure you're leaving comments. I want to hear from you, even if you're just on a podcast. If you're just a podcast listener, I thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. The easiest way for us to interact is if you leave it, even if you're just listening to the podcast, and if you don't even like fully watch the video, but if you go look up the video, it'll be the same title on YouTube, and then leave a comment so you can let me know your thoughts. That would be great, because there is a ton of you listening, and I'd love to chat it up with you guys. I love Fallout. I'm loving this Fallout series, so let's chat. But yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave those comments. Podcast listeners, subscribe, follow, leave a 5-star rating and a written review, because that helps the show grow as well. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the special Fallout series show. Do you know what makes you special? Well, it is listening to the special Fallout series show.